Hello, everyone. I'm taking this train somewhere completely random today. I hope you don't mind. So, I don't know about you, but I am hyped for season 5 of Stranger Things. It's coming out in just a few days, and I have to admit, I became a huge Byler fan. What's funny is that I didn't start out that way, and I was actually a Mike and Elle shipper at first, and for a long time, I kind of thought the people shipping Mike and Will were reading too much into things. Kind of like the Draco and Hermione shippers back in my day. I figured it was mostly wishful thinking and not really grounded in reality within the show, but then I started watching Byler analysis videos. Like real analysis, not just, oh, they're so cute together. And that's when everything changed. So, the first creator who really made me look at the show differently was Ronald Off the Record. And he's an actual lawyer and he analyzes Stranger Things almost like he's building a case file. His breakdowns are evidence based and surprisingly convincing. According to him, if Mike and Will had been written as a girl and a boy, most people would automatically assume they were being set up romantically for later. And he says the only reason that idea gets dismissed is because they are both boys. He points out to the small snowball scene where Mike looks visibly sad watching Will dance with a girl. And he compares how Mike apologizes to Will sincerely and emotionally to how he reacts when Elle dumps him, which show treats almost like a comedic moment. He highlights the moment right after Elle kisses Mike when Mike looks conflicted instead of excited, and he brings up the awkward airport half hug scene, saying Mike doesn't act that way with any other boy. After hearing his perspective, I wanted to see how other creators approach the same topic from different angles. Another creator who really stood out to me was Lesbian Mind Flare. She made an hour-long deep dive analysis explaining why she thinks Mike might be closeted, not just supportive of Will. She focuses a lot on symbolism, music, and visual cues. She talks about Mike's ew gross reaction in season 1 when the boys tease him about liking Elle, which she interprets as discomfort rather than hidden attraction. She points out the scenes centered around Mike using LGBTQ themed songs that mirror inner conflict. She discusses a coat of arms connected to Mike that includes deliberate LGBTQ plus symbolism confirmed by the show's art team. And she argues that across seasons 1 through 4, Mike consistently shows very little romantic interest in girls, while showing deeper emotional investment in Will. Her perspective made me curious about what the fandom itself had put together beyond long form essays, and that's what led me to the next video. So I watched a lot of Byler videos around this time, and honestly, they all started blending together, but one of them really stuck out to me. It's called 101 Reasons to Love Mike and Will. I'm glad she used that number, 101, because that reminds me of 101 Dalmatians. Anyway, um, it's by Angel with Nightmares, and one of the scenes that stood out to me the most is the van scene. That's the moment where Will indirectly confesses to Mike through the painting. A lot of people point out that Mike takes that emotional encouragement and uses it as the confidence boost he needs to finally confess his love to Elle later on, even though multiple parts of that confession don't actually line up with what the show has shown us. For example, Mike says he fell in love with Elle at first sight, but the very first thing he says when he sees her is that she's not Will. He brings her home reluctantly and even tries to send her away so she can keep searching for Will. Mike also says he was never scared of Elle, but the show clearly shows moments, especially in earlier seasons, where he is frightened or overwhelmed by her powers. Those contradictions make a lot of people believe that Mike may be saying what he thinks he's supposed to feel rather than what he actually feels. Other moments from that compilation that really stayed for me include a look Mike makes at Will in the car that resembles longing, and it looks incredibly powerful. It doesn't look like he's simply lost in thought. It looks like something deeper. And then, of course, there's this look where Will gives Mike this soft, longing expression, and Mike glances back at him 3 separate times. And a lot of people interpret that as Mike subconsciously or consciously responding to Will's feelings in a way that might not be entirely platonic. And I can't resist but play that clip for you. It's in this video.
Sometimes I think it's just scary to open up like that, to say how you really feel, especially to people you care about the most.
Across several Byler breakdowns, the van scene kept coming up as one of the most important moments. Will opens his heart indirectly, and Mike completely misreads who the speech is actually about. But the interesting part is how Mike uses that speech later on. Will's encouragement becomes the emotional springboard Mike uses to finally confess to Elle. And yet, as I mentioned earlier, much of what Mike says in that confession doesn't match his earlier behavior in the show. For a lot of fans, that inconsistency is a major reason they see romantic tension between Mike and Will as more believable than Mike's relationship with Elle. For a long time, all of this convinced me that Byler was almost definitely happening until I came across a video that gave me doubt. So there is a TikToker and YouTuber named Byler's son who is also a Byler supporter. And he made a video recently called I'm Having Byler Doubt, and his reasoning genuinely is making me pause. And he brings up one major thing. He brings up the fact that Millie Bobby Brown mentioned that she wore an uncomfortable costume on her last day of filming, and he thinks he was referring to this wetsuit. And in the shots from that scene, she happens to be wearing the ring Mike gave her, but now it's on her left index finger instead of her right. And he interprets that as a sign that Mike and Elle might still be together in the final episode. And honestly, that concerned me too. I'm trying not to let this ruin the show for me because I don't want to hate Stranger Things over one ship. But I also understand why some fans say that if Byler doesn't happen after all the coding and build-up, it could feel like queerbaiting. Anyway, what do you think? Do you think Mike and Will are endgame? Do you think Millie's comment means something? Or do you think everything is pointing somewhere else entirely? Let me know in the comments. I love hearing different perspectives. Season 5 is only a few days away, and I'm excited and a little nervous to see what happens. Hopefully in the next train ride, it will be a bit more on topic, but either way, I hope you all had fun on this one.